I love my identity was encased in the fact that I could outwork anyone. I remember him saying to me, he's like, Danielle, I'm really worried that your ambition is going to end up hurting you. And I was like, what?
I think people don't know how to play the game of life or the game of business. And if you can learn how to play it, you can create so much success.
Most people can do it if they have the determination coupled with the action and the ability not to quit. Like, I think that's the magic recipe.
Hello. I am so excited right now because I am joined by the amazing Danielle Canty, and this is going to be an incredible conversation. Danielle, thank you so much for joining me.
Are you kidding me? Thank you so much for being on here. I have been a fan of FEA since the beginning. I feel like I was following you in, I don't know, must have been like 2016 when I first heard about the online space and was like, oh no, wait, I want to be a female entrepreneur. Let me see what the Female Entrepreneur Association is all about.
I love that so much. I know. I feel like this is total girl power right here because like what you have achieved, what I have achieved, I feel like most people, if we were having conversations, they'd be like, I don't think they necessarily believe us if we talk to them and told them like what we've done and how we've done it and the kind of, I mean, obviously, yes, I'm sure like, I mean, I know I've had loads of ups and downs. I'm sure you have too, but it doesn't come without its challenges. But the success that we've created, just being obviously normal people, is just amazing. So it's, I'm excited to have this conversation and just, I guess, let people go behind the scenes and just see the journey of what it's like and what it takes to create a lot of success, build a multi-million-dollar business. And obviously for both of us, we've built it in we've had massive success with memberships, which I love. Obviously memberships, like I love my membership is started in 2013, which just blows my mind that it's that old. But it's just been the bread and butter for me. And it's been incredible. So I'm so excited to dive into all of that and everything going. I would love to start right back at the beginning. Obviously, people know you from the other half of BossBabe, and I know you're not anymore. So it'd be good to like chat and like, obviously that has been a huge experience for you in itself. So love to dive into that and then talk all things memberships as well. But can we go right back to the beginning of how you even got into business and how it all started?
Yeah, of course. And also I just want to say that you touched on something there which kind of really hit my heart, which was like, if we can do it, everybody can. Because I think you and I, and I'll speak for myself in this part, I wasn't a born entrepreneur. I didn't go to the smartest schools. I didn't have like entrepreneurs around me all the time. Actually, I don't even think I knew what an entrepreneur was, honestly, until I was about 21, 22. And I think when you combine purpose, you combine passion, and you combine hard work, that's when really like the magic happens. And I remember, speaking back to how all this started, I remember I was a chiropractor in the UK. I graduated in 2010, got my first job. And that's when I really started getting ambitious. That's when I was really like, wow, what could I do here? And I remember kind of fast forwarding a few years, saying to my boss at the time, he had 5 clinics, and I was like, hey, I want to buy one of your clinics. And he looked at me like I was crazy, because I was about 23 at the time, so it probably was a little crazy. And he was like, I don't think you're ready yet. So I was like, oh, okay. So I went off and I made sure I was like the best chiropractor I could be, and I went back and was like, oh, I'm ready to buy one of your clinics now, a year later. And he was like, Anyway, long story short, he had an offer on the table at the same time as me to buy all 5 clinics. And so when that was announced, they actually invited me to become a partner, and I became a partner in that company. And we became like the fastest growing primary healthcare brand in the UK. But what was really interesting is, fast forward a few years, I noticed that I was hitting this glass ceiling and I wasn't really fully in control. And I kept trying to get in rooms. I was like, I want to be in this room. I want to give this input. I want to have a say in what's happening. And I really wanted to control my income. I started noticing that the only way I was really making significant changes in my income was still trading time for money. And I wanted to get away from that. And I share this story because there was a distinct moment. I spoke to my boss. He was about 10 years older. I should say partner, actually, because we both had shares, but he was the CEO. I spoke to my partner at the time and I was like, look, I really want to, I can see where things are going with this company. I really want to be more involved. And I remember him saying to me, he's like, Danielle, I'm really worried that your ambition is going to end up hurting you. And I was like, what? And basically, long story short, over this conversation, he was telling me to be less ambitious, to be happy where I was at, and to stop trying to push all the time. And in that moment, I realized that I wanted to have full control. I wanted to have control of my own destiny. I didn't want some guy 10 years older telling me what I could and couldn't do. And that was a really big change for me. And I think and I share this story because that's when I found FEA too. And I think a lot of women entrepreneurs, they start their businesses for one or two reasons. They either start it because of purpose and they want to make a really big difference, or they start it because they want freedom. And so for me, I really started it because I wanted freedom. I wanted freedom of choice. I wanted freedom of my salary. I wanted freedom of where I was spending every single day. Yeah. And that was a really big motivator for me. And you're either moving towards something, you're either moving towards a goal. Tony Robbins talks about this a lot, or you're moving away from something. And for me, I was moving away of having other people control my destiny and the decisions that I was making that were impacting my daily life. Yeah. And that was a really big decision for me in then co-founding BossBabe, which became, as you know, like one of the largest communities for women entrepreneurs online as well, like FEA.
How did that come about? Like, how did you and Natalie already know each other?
No. So basically,
oh my God, I can't wait to hear this.
And this is a lesson, right? I, before 2016, did not know what law of attraction was, did not know what personal development was. And by the way, I am not some woo-woo person, but what I do believe in, when you change your vibrations, you start seeing opportunities differently. Yeah. And so, another quick story. In 2016, I was probably earning $100K a year, right? Give or take. Let's say that's dollars. Then I met this guy and he was like, well, how much do you want to earn a year? He was a multimillionaire living in Dubai. And I was like, oh, I want to earn $200,000 a year. And he was like, okay. And so that like 100 to 200, that felt like a stretch, but it was doable. Then he said to me, okay, now we're going to double it. You want to earn $400,000 a year. I was like, what? How? Like, I can't even fathom that. Like, to put it into context, my dad was probably earning about 60,000 at this point. So I was already out earning, people who I'd looked up to my whole entire life. Yeah. I was like, $400,000. That is insane. I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to do that. And what that made me realize is, and it's kind of, if you've ever read the book 10x is easier than 2x, is that whole concept with, if you're 2xing something, you're going to start doing very similar things to what you're already doing, versus when you 10x something, you actually have to think completely differently, because there's not always, 20 ways to 10x your business. There's sometimes only 1, 2, or 3. Yeah. And so I realized that if I was going to 10x or like 4x in this case, my income to £400,000, I needed to be doing something drastically different. And that's what set in motion this whole exploration into the online world. I knew that I needed to get out from behind the bench. I knew that I couldn't keep expanding in brick and mortar businesses because there was just too much capital needed. And so that's when I was like, what transferable skills do I have that I can take from offline into offline? And with that, I got a coach because I didn't know anything about this space. I got a coach. I took vacation time from my clinic. I flew to San Diego, and then I met Natalie at a conference in San Diego. And we met because we both felt that we were ambitious women. And this was 2017. So, it wasn't the movement that it then became. Yeah. And we just felt lonely as like unapologetically ambitious women. And so that's what we bonded over, was like pulling this, community together that we wished existed for ourselves. And so that's how it was born. So it was really born out of sheer, frustration for ourselves, and also both of us at that point thinking bigger and how could we 10x the lives that we were already living.
I love that. It's so true about like 10xing rather than 2xing, and the fact that like so often we're looking at what we want to achieve and where we're trying to go from the perspective of where we're at. And so we don't actually think outside the box or think bigger or think differently. And then we just keep getting very similar results. So I think that is such a powerful like concept, a powerful thing for us all to remember to create growth and success so much faster. So I love that. I love so many people, you know, over the years that I've worked with have said, you know, what, you know, about having partners and working in business with someone. I actually, in my first business I started the business by myself, and then I brought a business partner in. He was actually my boyfriend at the time, and I was in my final year of studying law. And so I was like, do you want to come and help me? And it was it was amazing in the sense that he had such different skills to me. So he really helped us to kind of scale the business. But when our relationship ended, like we just went in two separate ways. And then the dealing with certain things that happened or like the fallout from that, especially when you've got a business and it gets messy and it's tangled, like I found really difficult. And I remember thinking, I actually have gone in waves throughout building the Female Entrepreneur Association, in a sense of sometimes I look back to my first business and I liked it not just being me. I liked it not just always being me to make every single decision. I liked having somebody else there who was like carrying the load with me, and we were figuring it out together. And he had such different skills to me, so he could drive it forward in a way that I couldn't really drive it forward. And I think in FEA, I've always missed that piece. But then I feel like I also quite like the having that full control and not having to like butt heads or I don't know. I guess it's got its ups and it's got its downs. And you both made it really successful, which is incredible. Like it's amazing that you met at a conference and then you kind of had that spark and that inspiration together, and then you both took that in, you created obviously BossBabe, which is just an enormous brand and has become so successful. It's amazing. I mean, and how old were you when you guys started it?
29, I think. How old is it? 28? Yeah, it's 29.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's so amazing to think of that you both just did that. And
what happens is you just have to be kind of bold in your self-belief. And I'm always like an open book, and I really noticed this recently. I had a baby last year, and I just stopped dreaming again. I guess that's the best way to put it. I was going to say, like, I just was like, I don't really know where I'm going right now. Like, I don't have that like target in mind. And I really noticed that when I didn't have that, life took me on its own river and own flow.
yeah.
Versus when you have this target, when you have this idea in mind, you really get to kind of, you know, draw it to you. And it's so funny because I literally sound so woo-woo. I'm actually really not. Like, I'm a science girly. Like, I love science and I love data. But Joe Dispenza really kind of like swung me on the whole concept of, you know, the quantum physics and understanding laws of attraction, understanding your vibration, and love being the highest frequency and you being able to attract things to you. And it's not that I believe it. I've actually experienced it. And over again, when I start thinking, when I allow my mind and my energy to embody something that's not yet in this material world, I always get there quicker. And I do think that's what we did really early on. One, we put so much hard work on it, but we also knew what we wanted to do. Like, we had that like flag like in the sun, like we were heading in that direction and nothing was going to stop us. Like, I was working 80-hour weeks at the time. Like,
Wow.
It was crazy. I would work my day job as a chiropractor on UK time and then work a full 8-hour shift. Well, probably more like 5 hours to be fair. Well, 5-hour shift on PST time because Natalie was in San Francisco and then LA. But what did that? It was like sheer hard work and determination, but it was also this belief. And I think whenever you are starting businesses, whenever you're building something, your belief is just as important as your execution. Now, I'm not saying you can have belief without execution. I don't think you can. But I don't think you can just have execution. I do think you have to have a belief. I think you have to have a standing. I think you have to be a kind of a little bit crazy. I think other people need to tell you you're not going to be able to do it. But you are becoming so rigid in your process. And the whole goal of being a good entrepreneur is being able to quieten out all the other noise that everyone else lets them distract them. Mm-hmm. And if you go back to Pareto's principle, which is the concept of like in business, 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. I genuinely think that in business, 80% of the issues that you'll face will always be mindset, and 20% is actually skill and execution. Because it's like your ability to keep going when everybody else gives up. It's like your ability to be like, you know what? I'm doing it anyway. So-and-so says, so I can't do it. I'm doing it anyway. It's like your ability to be like, hang on a minute. That's the fourth thing I've tried and it's failed, but what's the fifth?
Yeah.
And most people give up. Like that is the fact of it. Like most people do give up. And so I don't think the businesses that we see now exist because those and by the way, I have been so fortunate at this point to have met several people who have built billion-dollar businesses. Now, I'm not saying they're not smart, but they're not the smartest people that you have ever met. They're not like Einsteins. Like they're just people who had a lot of sheer belief and sheer determination. And I think that's what like is the misconception sometimes, that people think other people are like way smarter than them and what they've done they could possibly never do. But I just don't think that's fact. I think that most people can do it if they have the determination coupled with the action and the ability not to quit. Like, I think that's the magic recipe.
I totally agree with you on that. Like, I do these things called millionaire playbooks in the membership, and it's so fascinating speaking to like having these conversations that I have with people, because it's just the same pattern every single time. And it's always, they have had mentors or coaches. They've invested a lot in themselves and in their own growth and development and putting themselves in the room with the right people. They have spent so much time like really working on themselves and their beliefs and how they show up. And they have been relentless in the pursuit of what it is that they want to achieve. And I always find it fascinating because it's really that more, you know, occasionally like some really strategy stuff comes up, but the strategy is really simple. The strategy is like, I did one recently and the strategy was really like, this person had spent a lot of money working with different people. And I was like, what was the thing that you learned? And it was, doing high ticket and creating and launching. That was the strategy. The rest of it was all the work on herself and the mindset. And it was all that work. And then the little strategy bit, the practical bit, just was that little bit that slotted in right at the end, and that just helped explode everything. And it's fascinating to me, because I just think, one, so often people are wanting the strategy, and it is obviously important, but I think the most important piece is actually working on yourself. I think people don't know how to play the game of life or the game of business. And if you can learn how to play it, then you can create so much success. So it's really inspiring listening to you say that. There's a couple of things that you just mentioned that I really want to talk about. One was the mum thing and feeling lost after it. And I know this is probably like a whole different episode in itself, but I know I felt like that after having kids and having a business. And before having Casey Myson, like I was working all the time and it felt really fun. Like I felt like I was in a place where I was working from home, and I would spend a lot of time working on my laptop, spend a lot of time with my husband Kellen, and we would go for walks with the dog and we would do fun things. He's from California, so we'd often be in California and going to like different events and conferences, and it felt really free and really fun, and I felt fired up and I was really creative all the time. And then when I had Casey, I just wanted to be with him and I wanted to hang out with him, and all of a sudden the business felt kind of insignificant, and which was, I found really difficult, because I just was like, wait, I don't know how to show up anymore authentically when I've got these thoughts and these feelings. And then I started hiring more people and working with more people, and then I became more of a manager than a creative person, and then totally lost myself in it all. And I think it's such an interesting journey when you have a business and then you have kids, and God, it changes everything, doesn't it? It just changes your perspective, changes who you are, changes the way you think, changes the way you want to show up. And like, I don't know, I got lost in it all for a really, really long time. And I think, yeah, this probably is a separate conversation, but I just wanted to touch on it just because I don't know if enough people to really talk about it. And I know I do know some people who've had kids and then they've got really fired up to like work and like build their business. That definitely didn't happen to me. I was like, no, I'm ready to just go for walks all day long with my baby and just hang out with my baby. Like, that's what I wanted.
I think that's the important thing to recognize, like all mums, is like the experience is just so different and so unique for like every individual. And I would describe it for me of like, let's say I had a pair of glasses on and I had like, they had a blue filter on them and everything I saw in my life was like this bluer color. And when I had a baby, it was like I just switched glasses and now the lens, like you're still seeing the world, you're still seeing the same world, but it has a different tint. Now it's got a red tint on it. And so colors that you thought were certain colors now look different. And for me, that was the biggest shift. Like, it wasn't really that I lost ambition. It was more that I just was like, wait, what am I building and why am I building it? And what am I willing also to sacrifice? And I think I was like you in the sense of I would work. All I did before was work, hang out with my friends and work out. Really. Like that was it. Like I would literally, and I always, my identity was encased in the fact that I could outwork anyone. Like, I could put more hours in than anybody in the company. I sat in every single seat. I had like this unlimited energy and I wore that like a badge of honor. And then when you have a baby and you're like, first of all, and I can say this because this is a British show, Americans don't know what it means, but you're knackered. Which means you're super tired. Like you're just so tired. And now you've got something that's, taking up a lot of energy, needs a lot of attention. And now for me, my identity of being able to work harder than anybody else was completely robbed. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, which was like, wait, I can't outwork people now. Like I actually need to work smarter. I need to assess. And I do think in many ways it does make you a better business person, because if you think about Pareto's principle, it does make you become really good at doing the 20% of things that move the needle 80% of the time. But what also happened for me was that I just was like, what do I want to build? What am I willing to sacrifice? And what am I not willing to sacrifice? And I think that is a huge shift that a lot of mums do go through. Maybe dads too, depending on, maybe your role in the house. But that was like a really big shift for me. And I'm kind of like what you said, I don't think it does get spoken enough because it does sound cliche. And for people who don't have kids, it's kind of annoying when you're like, oh yeah, like once you have kids, you're not the person you were before. You're elements of the person, but parts of you do disappear and new parts of you grow. And I just think until you go through that, it's a really difficult thing to explain to anybody. And it's also really difficult for people who knew you as your old identity and then now you're this new identity, you're not really sure about who you are or what this change has been. And then those people that are around you are also like, wait, you're kind of very different to you were before. And so I think it is important that it's acknowledged. My lesson is in 2024, 2025, as a society, I don't think we do a great job about talking about motherhood and the transitions and letting other people in society understand what that's like, whether it's men, whether it's women, whether it's friends. Like, and by the way, I'm not somebody, I'm actually how do I say this? Like, I love my child, but I definitely am never going to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I am not built that way.
Yeah.
And for me, work is really important. So I'm not even saying it from a place of like, nothing in the world matters but my child now. Like, no, I still matter and I still have my ambitions and I still have these things. What I am saying though is I don't think it is a topic that's really understood and spoken about in society probably as much as it should do. It is impacting a lot of people.
Yeah. The other thing that you talked about when you were talking about like at the beginning with BossBabe and like really kind of building that up, it kind of sounded like you and Natalie were really focused on, like really laser focused on what you were trying to build and what you were doing. Were you like, did you have like a goal as in like, we're going to build the membership? Like, what was the goal? Did you know you wanted to build a membership? Like,
the membership was the first product that we launched. So we knew that there was a lot of women who are resonating with not having a community of being unapologetically ambitious. We also recognize that the best way for you to take ownership of your life and create your own wealth or generational wealth was via entrepreneurship. I was an entrepreneur, she was already an entrepreneur. And so we together decided that we wanted to build a membership specifically for female entrepreneurs. And so that became known as a society. So we launched that in March 2018. And we did that first year. Now, I will say we did not expect it to blow up like it did. So I told you I had that goal of 400,000, but I had no idea how I was going to get there. Yeah. That whole conversation happened in August 2017. I met Natalie in September 2017, and we launched the society in March, April of 2018. And so it was a really, really fast process. And we launched it. And within that first year, BossBabe did $1.4 million.
Wow.
And we were shook. And guess what my take home was?
What?
400,000.
No way. I love that.
Wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I share that because we knew right from the get-go, generally, I will say that if you are noticing that you have a problem that is not fulfilled by the market, other people are noticing it. Yeah. And the reason that we wanted to create a membership is I had already had experience in my chiropractic clinics. We had some kind of subscription-based models. And I really enjoyed the fact that you could kind of sell once and then it was repeatable. And so versus doing a course, we decided we wanted to do a membership. And we also wanted it to be accessible for the majority of people as well, which is why we launched it at $29. And so fast track, where we launched the membership, we grew that. And what happened was it actually created this stability in a business, because that's what memberships do. They create you predictability and stability. Yeah. So we knew now what we were bringing in every single month in reoccurring revenue, which then allowed us to start hiring and expanding our team. And so that was like, if we had not started as a membership, I don't know where we would have ended up, because we would have really erratic revenue. And so starting with a membership was such a great foundation for us to be able to hire, bring employees in, to be able to add on additional products, to be able to recruit, because we always had a baseline coming in every single month, which covered all our costs. So anything on top of that was added and was as a bonus. Yeah,
I know. I agree with that. I think I am so grateful to my past self for starting a membership, because like you said, even especially like when I had kids and everything, like it creates that stability and predictability with a business. And it's so powerful. I definitely think every business needs to be generating recurring revenue. And also I just think there's so much power in memberships when you've got like community and you've got that space for people to come and feel like they belong. Like it's so powerful. So I love that. So what you obviously guys scaled that up really successfully. So what happened with you and BossBabe?
So I think that it's just like kind of you were touching on something earlier where you're like, sometimes you wish you had a partner. I remember interviewing Payal Kadakia. She was the co-founder of ClassPass, which if you're in the States, you know, it's like this app where you can basically visit any gym or go to any studio or go to any class. You pay ClassPass and they like spread it out. But she had a co-founder. And she was said on the podcast, she was like, it's actually way easier at the beginning to have a co-founder, but as you get bigger, it becomes harder. And so it becomes harder because you both have different visions for the company. And so, you know, as Natalie had a baby, I hadn't at that point. There were natural transitions of the business, of our alignment, of what we wanted to create. And so we just realized that we had different paths and we had different ways that we wanted to build it. And so we had to have those really hard discussions about what that looked like. And ultimately, I decided that I was going to leave. Like, I had other things that I was also excited about. I had other things that, I was like, okay, I'm also such an optimist. I really believe in the two things. One, fundamentally, like, my values and really being always in alignment with everything and who I'm doing things with is really important to me. And second of all, like, I knew in my heart that I didn't just want to build a personal brand. I wanted to build a company. I wanted to build something that lived beyond my name. And that was kind of just like a different path that, Natalie wanted to go in as well. And so that's all good. Like, there's always going to be differences in opinions. And so I decided to exit. And then since then, like, been building other pieces inside. But one thing I did also realize in that was that it is really powerful to support women. Like, I think in my core, I'm such a girl's girl. Like,
Yeah.
I love supporting women. I love helping women build wealth. And I really do. Every single time I'm in these rooms, I'm fortunate that I'm actually surrounded by a lot of amazing women in the rooms that I go into. Like, my community in LA is phenomenal. There's so many badass women, 9 figures, 8, 9 figures continuously in their business. Like, some of my friends have built billion-dollar businesses, and I think that's really powerful. And so I realized that I always wanted to, like, give back that knowledge. Like, I never want to be a gatekeeper, because I never forget that little girl from Leicestershire who, like, I thought you were rich if you had a Mercedes. I didn't even know that people had homes like they do here in LA, or had private jets. Like, I didn't even know there was a game of wealth. I didn't even know the game of life. And so for me, I'm really passionate about sharing that and making sure there's always seats for people at the table, and at least they know. I don't think I even knew that those tables existed. Like, I really want people to know, like, how much control they can actually have on their life, that they can start businesses, that they don't have to be the smartest people in the rooms, that you literally just need that combination of hard work, passion, and testing a good idea. And let me tell you this, a good idea is not just a good idea. You have to iterate on an idea, right? You don't just get a good idea. You, like, test things and you try things. And, I do think one thing I've noticed about women entrepreneurs is that we tend to take ourselves out the race. This is something I really like to talk about, because it's like, if you linked into the study where men will apply for a job even if they can do only 30% of what is on a job description. Women won't apply unless they can do 80% of it. So automatically then we're taking ourselves out the race. And I watch women do this over and over again. And I'm like, you think you need this qualification. You think that you need every single thing figured out. You think you need to know exactly who to market to. You think that before you start a membership, you need all your content laid out. You don't. You just need to decide to start. The rest you build on. You find out who the market is. You're going to tweet that a million times before you decide on it. You're going to decide what that pathway is, and you're going to iterate on it. And so I think that there's just this misconception, or at least women hold themselves to the standard to being able to do everything to the best possible way. And that is just not realistic in the game of entrepreneurship. And I do think that's why we have less women entrepreneurs making it to 7 figures, because it's that they're telling themselves that they can't make it to 7 figures versus letting life determine whether they can make it to 7 figures.
I love that you said that, because it's so true. I mean, I see it all the time, but the thing I see all the time is people coming to me saying, Carrie, I want a membership like you have. And I'm like, no, you don't. And then I'm like, I started it with 1 month's worth of content and I did not know what was next.
I was like, society with like, I think we had 2 months worth of content. That was it.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't know anything else. I wouldn't have been able to do it if I was meant to make a 12-month bloody plan. Like, I'd have just stalled. And I think that's people do think they have to have it all like perfectly laid out. And it's like, no, just get on with it. You'll figure it out as you're going.
Yeah.
I think there's some fundamentals to get in place. I think the thing that you and I had going for us is that we had established audiences as well, which is so powerful. But I think people, I don't know, it comes down to like where, again, people are spending their time so that they can actually build the momentum to create the success for the businesses. You don't need to have like a huge audience to create a lot of success. I think it's just coming back to that piece of focus, of focusing on what are you focusing on that's helping you to drive the business forward and helping you,
The hardest thing I think to do as an entrepreneur is to stop doing the things that are no longer serving you.
Yeah.
Because like naturally we tend to be like optimists and enthusiasts. And, you know, actually, if you never look on the Enneagram, most entrepreneurs are either a 3, an 8, or a 7. So a 3, an achiever, they're working towards a goal. Challenger, they just want to argue with the status quo and create something different. Or a 7, which is the enthusiast. And they get like excited about everything. And I think the biggest thing that stops entrepreneurs from growing, or potential entrepreneurs from really building, is the shiny object syndrome and the grass is greener on the other side, when it literally is not. Like you think that, okay, someone else has got the magic recipe over here, or hang on a minute, that's a better idea, or maybe I should do that, maybe I should promote over here, maybe I should sell. And it's all these ands. And what happens is that just dilutes your energy. It dilutes your ability to move the needle in just a few areas. So if you take anything away from this podcast, it's just like do less, but do the things that you are doing better. There is a reason why on social media, I don't post on Facebook and I don't post on TikTok. I literally just focus on Instagram and LinkedIn, because there's only 2 platforms, and my email newsletter, but the only 2 platforms I can actually do well right now. Like if I add in TikTok as well and Facebook, then I'm just going to be diluting what I'm actually capable of doing versus doubling down on the platforms that are already removing the needle for me.
Yeah, I so agree with that. I think focus is so important so that you can actually build momentum and create results. So, should we dive into memberships a bit more and like unpack some of the stuff, like what have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned? So obviously if you got to 1.4 million in that first year, you must have had like a good number of members joining that first year. So what did the growth like, what did that look like over those?
Oh my goodness,
first few years?
I can't remember all the numbers off by heart, but yes, we had a really great year the first year, and we did something which I still teach in my current program, Rise, and we do something where we call founding members. So whenever you're launching a membership, you really want to have founding members, because these become your advocates. And also when you have founding members, they actually give you permission to not be perfect. Like I literally remember saying like to people to come in and join us, like, hey, this is not going to be perfect. Like, yeah, you are also going to have a voice in building this. And that's what we do continuously, even now. Like, even when I'm building anything brand new, I always incorporate my community into it. All my founding members get a say, because at the end of the day, they're normally your raving fans. They're normally the people that like you, know you, trust you already, and they want to see you win and they want to support you win. So number one, I think it doesn't really matter, you know, where you're at in your entrepreneurial journey. If you're starting a membership, like you can do it with no audience. You don't have to have a ton of content. You don't even have to be like 20 steps ahead of the people that come in. You just have to be 1 or 2 steps. But what you do have to do is launch with a market research. Like you want to do it. I always do my founding members as like market research. So I'm always like, hey, I'm launching this membership. I would love for you to be part of it. If you join as a founding member, this will be the lowest price that it's ever been. I always do what you've done too, which is like grandfather pricing. So people lock in the price that they come in at, and then they stay at that. I always really regret canceling my Audible subscriptions. I got in so early and now. But so you grandfather people in, but you also tell them like, hey, this is brand new. You're getting this discounting founding members price because I really want your feedback and I really want your support in growing this. And, you know, when you have these raving fans, they will become your advocates, and you give them as great experiences, that you give them closer touch points to you. They are going to grow, and you're going to grow at the same time. So I would always say that to begin with. The other thing that I do think is like a misconception, like you say, is like people think that they have to have all their content built. Like people are like, oh yeah, like I have to have all of this, you know, roadmap completely aligned, completely built. We never ever once launched a program, well, I've never done this with everything built out, no matter how long it was. Like I might have known roughly where it's going to go, but I've not recorded all the videos. I'm not scripted everything, because you do want to leave room for change. You want to leave room for feedback that goes, oh, hang on a minute. actually, I need to add this module in here because I realize I assume people knew this and actually they don't.
Yeah.
And so those kind of concepts are really, really important. And then also, one thing I do love teaching, which I really want to share because not many people are doing this, and I think this is really powerful, is whenever you are just launching a membership, we launched, like you spoke about something there, Carrie, which is like, we had an audience, we had a leg up because we had an audience, right? But when you don't have an audience, the last thing you want to be doing is showing up in a membership for not much revenue at all, because revenue, cash is king. Revenue helps you keep your business going. Revenue helps you be able to hire people. Okay. Revenue helps you be able to pay all your softwares, etc. So we want to front load that. So anyone who is launching a membership brand new, I always get them to start with just annuals. Like, I don't get them to do monthlies at all, because the last thing you want to be doing is bringing new people in and then having them churn out at the same time, because then you're always just chasing your tail. So when you bring people in for a year, number one, they know they're committed to you for that year. You're committed for them. They're also giving you chances to improve yourself, get better, make the membership even better. They're going to be giving you feedback versus just popping in, popping out. Also, that allows you as an entrepreneur just to focus on the marketing aspect and the delivery versus all the retention tactics and stuff that you often need to be looking at when it comes to memberships. So that's something I feel like people just don't talk about. And I've always really implemented it. And with that, I just want to say one last thing too. People think memberships have to look a certain way. But one of the biggest things that I look back on as our time in BossBabe, we first released a course called IGA, which was Insta Growth Accelerator. We sold it in like 2018, 2019. And it was a 12-week program helping people grow their Instagram. And we sold it. It was a course, but we granted lifetime access. And so what happened is people came in there, they did their 12 weeks of coaching, and they just got access to the course, etc. And then when we came to realize, like, hang on a minute, the algorithm in Instagram changes all the time. Like, we need to be constantly updating this. And as a business, it wasn't really that viable. And so we had to create a whole brand new course in 2020, I think it was, called Influencer School. And so we created that. It was basically the same thing, but we felt out of integrity not gifting it to everyone who had bought IGA. So we actually gave like over 1,000 people access to this course because we realized that the stuff was outdated. Yeah. On hindsight, what we should have done was build that as a year-long container or year-long subscription, allow people access to it for $1,000 worth of hours that renews every year. And so I want to challenge everyone's perception of what a membership is. A membership does not need to be monthly. A membership can be annual, and a membership can also be a program that has a reoccurring charge every single year. And so when you kind of start, nowadays, everyone is used to subscriptions. Everyone is expecting subscriptions. Like, I have a ton of subscriptions on my Amazon or various makeup lines that I use. Like, we're doing subscriptions all the time. Like, Romeo has his own little subscriptions. Like, we're doing that all the time. So the general market is more open to subscriptions. So it's way easier to be like, hey, come join my year-long program. You get access for a year. And then if you want to stay in, you can just renew. That way, you're really not leaving, like, the old way is leaving money on the table. This way, you're really making sure that you're bringing money into your business, which allows you to deliver a better product for your consumers and your customers.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's some really good things as well, just because you're talking about like going after annuals, because we have that whole thing of, I think I was speaking to someone recently, and I think they've just rejoined the membership, and I think they've been in and out like 6 or 7 times. And I see that all the time. People coming and going and coming and going and coming and going, which is naturally what happens in a membership if you have monthly subscribers. But obviously with the annuals, it is definitely a little bit different. And to be honest, actually, I have been useless at focusing on annuals. We occasionally have done stuff to focus on annuals, but mostly not. But I definitely think that the annual, it is a good strategy, especially to get the money.
And especially if you don't have a big audience. Like, I don't think memberships should be done monthly if you don't have a big audience. Like, we have someone in our program, Chelsea. She had 298 followers, and she made $2,900 within 6 weeks of working with us because we taught her annual. Like, if that had been monthly, it would have been a fraction of that. She'd be chasing her tail. and not really able to reinvest into her business because she doesn't have enough followers to do the luxury of monthly.
Yeah.
And so I do think like if you have less followers, like it's kind of a do or die. I think you're launching a membership, you should only really be launching it annually to give yourself enough runway, to give yourself enough learning curve, to give yourself enough profit in your business to actually be a business and not just a hobby.
Yeah. I know you've got your program now. Is it called Rise, you said?
Yeah, it's called Rise.
Yeah. So take people behind the scenes and show them how to build memberships.
I realized that when I exited BossBabe, like no one was really teaching memberships. So there's one other person and that's it. And I really do feel like it's a model. And like I was saying, it's not just about what a membership normally looks like with this monthly. It's actually like you can be building these programs and courses as memberships. It's just as smart. And also I wanted to teach different techniques around how to sell people into it versus just the traditional webinar funnels. I wanted to teach them like DM conversations and conversion funnels, like what that looked like in today in 2025, because the market is changing. Like people don't necessarily want to be showing up to really long trainings all the time. Like people do want to be like having more conversations with people. And so I really wanted to build something that supported people on that journey and could take someone from having no idea what they wanted to do. They just knew that they wanted a digital product to having a digital product within 90 days. Like that was really important for me to be able to like, look, we don't need to overcomplicate this. What are all the things that I've done that I would do again? And let's take away all the things that I've done that I wouldn't do again. I would not recommend, because there's plenty of those too. But like, how do we really help people? Because community is important. Now more than ever, people are really assessing not just what they buy, but who they're buying from. What are the values of the company? What does the company stand for? And so building your own communities, building your own memberships, building your own, audiences is really powerful. And that's going to help everybody. And, I do think, unfortunately, we're going to be kind of going through an era of a recession soon. And so what's more important in a recession? Well, the importance is as people, as women, that we have control of our income. And I want to give as many people the resources and the ability to be able to take control of that. And digital products and memberships are such a great way of doing that, because you're not having to deal with, you have a planner, like you have a product. Physical products take so much inventory and operations and risk. I had brick and mortar. Brick and mortar was the ultimate risk. Like you have such high overheads and low profit margins. So I was like, how do I teach people ways to stabilize their income? There's not a heavy, outlay. It's not a complicated business model. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room to be able to do it. Like it's actually anybody. Jane Doe can do it. Anybody can do it. So that was really important for me, is just to put the ability back into women's hands to be, as we navigate, the next few years, how they can bring their own communities together and also support their lives financially.
I think it's going to be a really powerful, important part of, especially I think in the online business space. I think with AI and the world changing so much, I definitely think that community is going to be a big part of the way forward. I think with the way that online learning and education is going to change, I think the community piece and the real relationships and it's going to be so important, I think, over the next few years and beyond. So I think 100%. Having a membership and building that community is going to be really, really key. And I'd bloody love having a membership. It is amazing. Once you can, crack it, figure it out, the benefits of it are so huge, and it's really enjoyable.
It is. It provides predictability. It provides security, and on top of that, it provides you a community that you really love hanging out with. I think that's the coolest thing. It's just you normally attract people who are like-minded. You normally attract people who think similarly to you do. And so it's just really fun to kind of get to be, it's almost like hanging out with your friends, really.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Thank you so much for coming and chatting and sharing all of the golden nuggets that you shared. I feel like there's been so many key things that you've dropped that have just been so good, even at the beginning of the 10x and the 2x and all the talk on the mindset piece. I think it's such a such an important reminder for everyone that so much of our success is an inner game. And honestly, you've shared so much gold, and hopefully people feel very inspired with memberships, because I know there's a lot of people in this community who are building memberships or starting memberships or want to start a membership. So I love that you've come and chatted about it. Where can people go to connect with you, to find out more from you? I'll leave everything in the show notes as well.
I'm on LinkedIn, my name, but mainly on Instagram. So you can just find me at Danielle Canty. And I just wanted to make sure like everyone had something to take away from this call, Carrie, your audience. And so I have like a 19-page document around the systems that I did utilize to build an 8-figure membership. So if anyone wants to DM me FEA, pretty easy to remember, I'll send you that document so that you can have it, you can read through it, and you can use it as a resource to building your own membership. Because kind of like what we were saying, Carrie, is like, it's just, don't take yourself out the race. If you have the calling, if you have a calling to be building a membership or building an online product, whatever it is, like, just remember, like, half the battle is showing up at the start line, just like going to the gym. Half the battle is actually just going to the gym. A workout's actually not bad. Like, it's actually just showing up, getting dressed and getting down there that's the biggest issue. So it's kind of a little bit like that. Like, if you have the calling, if you have the knowing, don't take yourself out the race. Show up, give it a go. You don't need to know like what's 10 steps ahead of you. You just need to take the first one. That's it.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much for that. I'll leave it in the show notes. Well, actually, you don't need it in the show notes. Just DM you FEA.
Yeah, just DM me FEA. Easy.
Thank you so much for coming and having this conversation. It's been so nice to chat with you. And I feel like, we should have done this a long time ago.
Can you believe this is the first time?
I know. But yeah, it is amazing. And I think it just goes to show like what is possible. I think with what both of us have created, I think it's incredible. Like, one, the power of the blooming internet for us to now be able to create things like this at our fingertips is just amazing. And I think when you do harness yourself and you surround yourself with good people, and you learn from amazing people, like what is possible is so incredible. So yeah, thank you very much for this conversation. I've really loved it.
Thank you. Me too. And it was so nice to be on here and chatting with someone who's been such an inspiration in my journey, Carrie. Honestly, like FEA was, it really was something that inspired me to start as well. So thank you.
Feels very old now. Sometimes when I like
very
think
wise,
about it,
Carrie,
I'm like,
it's just very wise. Wisdom.
Yeah, I think I was pretty young when I started it, but even still, it makes me feel like I'm getting old. Anyway, I hope you have all loved listening to this episode. As always, if you haven't left me a review over on Apple Podcasts, I would love you to, because it helps get the podcast out to more people. So go share your thoughts with me. Also, DM me as well. Message me on Instagram at I am Carrie Green. I would love to hear your biggest takeaways from this episode. And I will see you next week for another episode of the She Meets Business Show. Bye.